All right, welcome to Talking Investing. I'm Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to talk about CORZ Scientific, stock ticker CORZ. They are a Bitcoin mining company. For those of you who are new, we talk about Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners all the time. So if you have not yet subscribed, please remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Also, if everybody could smash the like button, I would appreciate it. It's been helping the channel out a lot. Lastly, if you want to become a member, you can join the channel by hitting the join button on the YouTube page. Members get some members-only content. In addition to that, we do a once-a-week members only live stream, and on that live stream, members get to pick a video for me to do a deep dive on. So we'd love to see you there. Let's talk about CORZ Scientific. They have now put out their third quarter results. So I did a video on CORZ Scientific after they did their October monthly operational update. So I want to update that video because we now have the third quarter results, and I feel like I now know an awful lot more about their situation than we did prior to getting their quarterly results. So as many of you may have guessed, spoiler alert, it's not good news. I want to go through it in more detail and show you exactly what they're facing right now because CORZ Scientific is up against it. So let's dig into this and take a look. Okay, for starters, CORZ trading at about 13 cents today. It's a little bit in the green, so nothing to really take away from that. The main takeaway from that is they are now down from 13 cents. Their 52-week high was $13.69. So they're at 13 cents right now. This stock has been taken out. Their current market cap is $50 million. So if we look at a chart of their market cap, and they just went public this past year, so if we look at chart at their historical market cap, you can see that in February of 2022, so, that was about 9 months ago now. This was a $3.35 billion company. It's now a $50 million company. So almost all of the value has been sucked out of this company, and when we go through the financial statements, I think you're going to see why. Okay, so this is the last press release they put out. I just want to go through this super quickly before we look at the financials, because this is the latest and greatest information that we've had. They actually have not put out a press release since then, including the fact that they did not put out a press release with the issuing of their 10Q, their third quarter financial results. So they did file them with the SEC. We can see them, we can go through them, but they did not put out a press release with them. So this is the last word that we've heard from them. So as we went through this, their October results were actually, from an operational standpoint, they seemed very impressive. Their production was 1,295 Bitcoin mined in the month of October. So that is obviously the most that any Bitcoin miner is mining by far. So from that perspective, certain parts of this company look great. However, unfortunately, when we dig deeper and look behind the scenes, financially, they have gigantic problems, and I'm starting to fear that these problems are insurmountable. Okay, so this is their financial statements for the third quarter ended September 30th, 2022. So I'm going to start on the income statement, or the consolidated statement of operations. So you can see that $162 million of revenue. So this is a company that does a lot of business. But unfortunately, if you go down to their bottom line, they have a net loss here in the quarter of $434 million. Now, I will say, to me, that is not the most important number in these financial statements. There's an awful lot of non-cash transactions that go into that loss. They had to write off a lot of things. So to me, $434 million loss in the quarter is not reflective of their operations. But I do want to dig into their actual operations and their cash flow, because that's where we can get a better understanding of, can CORZ Scientific get out of the problem that they are under right now, or is it too late? Okay, so if I go up to the balance sheet, this is worth taking a look at. If we look at, this is the September 30th, 2022, and this is compared to December 31st, 2021. So that was 9 full months later. So you can see their current assets have gone from $756 million down to $213 million. That's a drastic reduction in current assets. Their total assets have gone from $2.4 billion to $1.4 billion. So they're $1 billion down in their assets. A lot of that is the stuff they had to write off. They had a lot of goodwill. You'll see on the balance sheet at December 31st, they had $1 billion of goodwill. They have now written that down to zero. So that's a big part of the reason why their income statements look a little bit skewed, as if they've lost a lot more money than they really have. Most of this was just writing off these intangible assets, which actually had no worth to begin with, as it turns out. Their bigger problem is here when we look at current liabilities. $1,289,000 of current liabilities, $213,000 of current assets. So that is obviously totally upside down. They're basically at a 1-to-6 ratio of current assets to current liabilities. Now, I will say it looks like they've accelerated all of their long-term debt and included it in current liabilities. And that is based on the fact that they did not make some payments in October and November, and they're in default of these contracts. So I don't know yet that they've received their notice of default, and I'm not sure where that process is at, but they gave a press release letting us know that they had made a decision. They were out of money, and they were intentionally going to not make these payments, which was going to put them into default. So they are somewhere in that process right now. So you can see their total liabilities is $1.3 billion. So there's hardly any other long-term liabilities because all of them have been moved up to current based on the fact that they're defaulting. But what I really want to look at is total stockholders' equity. At the end of the year, this company had equity of $1.341 billion. So this looked very healthy on paper. That number is now down to $73 million. So almost all of their stockholders' equity has disappeared in the last 9 months, and I suspect by the end of the year, that number is going to be somewhere very close to zero. There is the possibility that could even be a negative number by the time we get their fourth quarter results. So, of course, I can only speculate to that as of now because the fourth quarter is not over, so we'll have to wait and see what those results come in at. Okay, now here's the heart of the situation. This is footnote 2, Summary of Significant Accounting Policies. Okay, you can see there's a section called Going Concerns. This is where we really get into the details of exactly what the problem is that they're facing. So I want to go through this in detail and we'll talk about it. Okay, the company has unrestricted cash and cash equivalents of $29.5 million at September 30th compared to $128 million at June 30th, 2022. The decrease in cash and cash equivalents for the 3 months ended September 30th, 2022 primarily reflected the $52.1 million of cash used in operating activities. Okay, so they're going to go through where they used their cash. And to me, this is the absolute most important thing in their entire financial statements. So the first thing is, from operations, they had to use $52.1 million. So in other words, in order to conduct business as usual, that cost them $52 million in cash. Now you can see as of September 30th, they only had $29 million of cash left. Of that $52 million, $15.5 million of that was interest payments on their debt. So this is important because this is what I want to look at. Even if somehow they were able to restructure all of this debt, and they talk about a few alternatives, some of which would be turning all this debt into equity, although at this point, with their market cap down to $50 million, I don't really think that's a viable alternative. That's just my opinion. Of course, this is not financial advice. They are working with some people trying to make something like that happen. So we'll see if they can get it done. But the problem is, even if they could make that $15 million of interest disappear and go to zero, they still would have a negative cash from operations of $37 million if their interest was gone. Past that, they say $5.7 million of cash was used in investing activities, mostly to purchase property, plant, and equipment. And lastly, $45.1 million of cash was used in financing activities, including $49.5 million of principal payments on debt. So not only did they have to pay $15 million of interest per quarter on their debt, they had to pay almost $50 million in principal. They have over $1 billion in debt. Actually, now I think it's down to $977 million. So approximately $1 billion in debt. So that is running them over like a freight train. The key to this company is cash. They are basically essentially out of cash, and they just described that operations is costing them $52 million, and principal on debt is about $50 million a quarter. So that's $100 million they're falling short a quarter just right there on those two things alone. Okay, I'm not going to read you this next paragraph, but essentially they go through all of their problems as to why they find themselves in this situation. Mainly, the price of Bitcoin obviously is down drastically. The cost of power is up. The network difficulty level for mining Bitcoin is up. So all these things put together, plus the fact that one of the main people they do business with filed for bankruptcy, has put them in this situation. So how they got here at this point is not really as important as where do they go from here. Okay, so as they go through that, they say, as a result of these and other factors, the company will require additional liquidity to continue its operations through November 2023. So that's a year from now. However, the ability to raise funds through financing and capital market transactions is subject to many risks and uncertainties, and current market conditions have reduced the availability of these capital and liquidity sources. The company anticipates that existing cash resources will be depleted by the end of 2022. At this point, they do not believe they have enough money even just to get through the next month or to the end of the year, if you will. Given the uncertainty regarding the company's financial condition, substantial doubt exists about the company's ability to continue as a going concern through November 2023. So one of the things they have to say, a going concern essentially means, are they going to be able to stay in business? business. So they're saying there's substantial doubt that this company is going to be able to stay in business for the next 1 year. And you can see they even really got a lot more specific than that. They basically said by the end of 2022 or sooner, which is imminent at this point, they are going to be out of resources. Okay, the next paragraph I'm not going to read as well. I'm just going to let you know. Essentially, they say, in light of the foregoing, the company is in the process of exploring a number of potential strategic alternatives with respect to the company's capital structure. So they list a bunch of things. They have hired a third party that specializes in this to come in and help them try to restructure. They list some potential possibilities. So again, I have to reiterate, this is not financial advice, but all the alternatives that they're looking at this point, in my opinion, it seems like it is too late for these alternatives. Cash has dried up. With their market cap down 99%, it's very hard to raise any cash through capital. They're not going to get any cash through debt. They already defaulted on the almost $1 billion of debt that they already have. They're losing money. They're losing cash flow from operations. That was about $50 million in the last quarter. And then obviously they're in default of all of their current loans. So as I look at this company, for me as an investor, I just don't see any scenario where they are able to reverse what's been done at this point. Sometime 3 months ago or 6 months ago, if they had shifted gears, it's possible they could have started to restructure things back then. But this company was very, very aggressive this year. And unfortunately for them, Bitcoin had a very, very bad year, one of its worst years ever. So the combination of them being massively aggressive in scaling up their business and Bitcoin basically crashing this year has left them now by November, it's left them in a spot where, for me personally, and again, this is just my personal opinion, I cannot see a scenario where they get out of this where there is any money left over for shareholders at all. In fact, it looks to me like by the time they issue their next financial statements, there's a reasonable possibility that they will be somewhere near zero in shareholder equity, with the possibility that they could even be negative in shareholder equity. So I don't know if there's a way for them to restructure this company and come out the other side. They do have a lot of assets, but even if they do, for me, it's starting to look more and more like no matter what happens, even if the company survives, it just doesn't look like there's any money left over for shareholders at all. Their equity looks like it's zero, and I think by the time we're done, we're going to find out that it's actually a very negative number. They have $1 billion worth of machinery and equipment and facilities on their balance sheet, and really the fair market value of that is probably somewhere between less and significantly less than that. So they could already be upside down by a couple $100 million. This is just my personal opinion. This is not financial advice, so I can't tell you to buy this stock or sell this stock. I think a lot of people with this stock down at 13 cents, they may feel like this is a good long shot. It's a good risk reward. So that's everybody's own personal decision that they have to make. For me, having taken a deep look at this third quarter information, for me now the risk reward does not work. So I am out of CORZ Scientific. I wish them well. I hope they find a way to get to the end of this problem. But like I said, I've looked at this and I just, from my perspective, I don't see how that's possible. Okay, so that's it. That's my interpretation of the Q3 results for CORZ Scientific. I wish it was better news, but it is what it is. So thanks again for watching. If you made it this far, please remember to subscribe to the channel and smash the like button. So thanks again, and we will see you in the next video.